Hey guys, Quinn here, Tactical and Practical. Hope you're all doing real well. Meopta. I was looking at the 3 to 18 by 50 SFP, second focal plane rifle scope with the 4C reticle. Basically a duplex without that thick top post, so it's a little bit of a less cluttered view. And I noticed that they also make a 3 to 18 by 56. So you pick up 6 mils on the objective lens, and I think everything else is equal. Thought we'd take a quick look at this and see how much bigger it is than the 50. I think this is probably what I'm going to use if it will fit correctly and still allow me the cheek weld that I need. The only problem with some of these larger ocular bells is that they, the bell size is such that you have to get rings high enough to accommodate the bell. In addition to that, you need to be able to get your cheek onto the buttstock in a manner that you can still see through it. I will tell you, compared to the 50 mil, this is perceptibly heavier. You can just feel right off the bat. I didn't look at the specs. I can look them up for you. This one, let's see, goes 3 to 18. A little stiff on the focus knob, but not too bad. It certainly is less than a Vortex. It's, maybe just slightly more than a Vortex, or pardon me, a Leupold VX3 HD. Parallax, there's about as much tension as you want on that. Goes down to 10 yards and then up to infinity. And the illumination clicks. It has a stop or an off position in between each illumination number. And it's just snug enough to turn that it feels comfortable. Now they should have the identical turrets to the other model. They are capped. Typically what I'll do with this style of, yeah, you can hear them click, positive, audible. They feel good. I don't believe this has, you can do a, you can reset your zero obviously, but this doesn't have any locking turrets. The caps are in place of that. So as a hunting rifle, I will plan on setting to maximum point blank range, and then just, that means on my 243 I'm good out to like 300 yards, and then I'll just have to remember the dials for 350, 400, maybe 425. That 243 carries 1,000 pounds of force out to 440 yards. These do have a diopter. They feel really well made. The glass quality on these is excellent. And this one is no different. It's super bright. I am dialed all the way down. Marginally forgiving Eyebox. Let's see what it does at higher magnifications. On low, it's pretty good. Yeah, you've got about maybe an inch and a half of kind of sweet spot when you're on higher magnification. Field of view on these is really good. They do make these in the Dichro-Tech reticle. I think I might try one of those out. The glass on these is really exceptional for the price point. That's the reason I got it. I evaluated a Burris Veracity, which is great. Reticle selection not so good. I looked at the Burris RT, which is made in China. It's good priced FFP to get you into long range shooting. I think the glass on this is maybe slightly better than my Vortex PST Gen 2. There's a guy who does a really good video on that. It's every bit as good as my VX3 HD. If you want a Leupold and you want to get the same features with parallax and illumination, you're looking at the VX5 line, so it's probably 2x, maybe even 3x of what you can get into these at. The eyepiece component here is a little chunky. We'll get out the 50 mil and compare them head to head so you can see. I will mention that right off the bat, this just feels a little bit heftier than that 50 mil, and it's because the glass is bigger, obviously, so it weighs more. And I wonder if, from an internal standpoint, if all the lenses that are inside of here have to be larger as well to accommodate that, which tacks on some weight. Although it does feel like most of that additional weight is picked up in the front of the scope. We'll get out the 50 mil and hold them up side to side so you can kind of get a comparison, and we'll go from there. I think this is probably going to live on my 243 as long as I don't have to monkey with the rings so much that the scope has to be elevated so much to clear the barrel that I can't get a good sight picture and still keep my cheek in the vicinity of the buttstock. That would be the only reason why I would keep the 50 mil instead, but we'll put it up on the gun and you guys can check it out. Alright, well the spec sheet says this thing's only half an ounce heavier than the other one. It feels a little bit more than that just to my hand. I do not have like a food scale or something, so it's slightly heavier, but probably not a deal breaker. 30 mil tubes on both. Controls are the same, so it should be identical. Eyepieces are identical. Really the only material difference is the change in that tube and then more severe right angle to make it up to that 56 level. There's a pretty good side-by-side comparison comparing the optical quality of these floating around YouTube. Basically they found that these are virtually identical with the exception that you might eke out a slightly longer amount of shooting time by having the 56, but it's probably not a deal breaker either way, and I tend to agree. I would, if you're in the market for either one of these scopes, I would frankly just shop for whatever one you can find the better deal on. But we will set them up on a REM 700 just so you can kind of see what they look like. The difference is, provided that the rings that I have set up on there are enough to accommodate this 56, because they may not be. I've got a 44 mil objective on there now, and I've got less than a 1/4 inch of clearance from the ocular bell down to the barrel. I'm almost sure that this 50 will fit barely. This is an X factor, and I don't know if I want to go through the whole hassle of changing rings and everything on that gun to eke out that extra 6 mils. But 6 mils doesn't sound like much, but when you look at them head to head like that, it certainly looks like it's quite a bit beefier. So if you're really, it's really important to you to gather every little bit of light that you can, you're going to want to go with the 56. The main difference, practical difference, is the exit pupil. How much light shoots out of this eyepiece is a function of the size of the ocular lens and the magnification you have it set on. So we're going to keep everything on 10 to keep the math easy. So if you've got a 50 mil ocular lens and you're on 10x, you divide 50 by 10 and get 5. That means there's 5 mils of light shooting out of here, right? If you have a 56 objective and you're on 10, you have 5.6 mils shooting out of here. What does that mean to you? I think if your eyes are healthy and young is part of it because they diminish as you get older. Generally at maximum dilation you can accommodate like 8 millimeters of light shooting into your eyeball, and then during the height of day when it's really bright and your eyes are a little bit constricted, your pupils are constricted, you accommodate somewhere in the vicinity of 5-ish mils of light. So anything above that is kind of superfluous and bounces off. However, at night, at dawn and dusk, when your eyes are dilated, that extra mil of exit pupil light can matter, because when you're dilated, you can pick up that light and use it. So if you spend most of your time hunting at dawn and dusk, it might be worth figuring out a way to make this 56 mil work for you. We'll throw a couple of them on the gun just so we can see what it looks like. Alright, just to give you frame of reference, this is that Remington 700. It's a 243, and that's what it looks like with that 44 mil scope that's on there. These new ones are shorter for sure, but the bells are going to be fatter, so we'll see how they fit. Okay, first thing we did was put the 56 mil scope up there. And see the backlights? You can see it barely makes it over that barrel. The only issue, this is the rail that goes across the Remington short action, which is probably the reason that this worked. If I had, I'd have to get taller rings if I just had, like, I love the Tally stuff, the Tally ultralight rings. The only determining factor here is if you see the back here where I'm pointing at it. Let's get you in there. that is the focus knob, and it is kind of that oversized rubber piece that's right here. I cannot really go, that's as far forward as I can go, otherwise it's going to hit that mounting plate, right? So we'll take this one off, and then we'll throw the 50 mil up there so you can kind of get a compare and contrast. Now the thing is, the 50 mil is obviously going to fit, the bell's going to fit, but the dial, the magnification knob, you're going to have the same problem on the back. So we need to see what this does with our eye relief, and if we are at a usable distance, clearly we can make it go further back, but we can't make it go any further forward. Then here is the 40 mil, so you can kind of see what that looks like, right? A little bit more of a traditional profile, but I'll tell you, after using 44 millimeter bells, once you get up into this 50 mil category, they do look different, but you know, it's just the fact of having to change. When you change something that you've been used to, it's going to look different until you get kind of used to it. Let's see if these things are both the same length. They are the same length, so the placement of where the back end of your scope has to be with that focus knob is not going to be affected by which one of these you choose in terms of if it gives you more space for eye relief. But I'll be doggone, this 56 mil fits on there, and there's clearance off that barrel, and it fits just right. I'm frankly a little bit amazed by that. That is a big bell on there, I'll tell you what, but has illumination, 3 to 18. It's got everything I want. I'm going to see if the eye relief's good, and if so, I'm probably just going to mount that thing up and go to the range tomorrow. That's it. I had been looking at that 3 to 18 by 50, and then I saw that they did have the 56 and could be a contender. Really, my consideration was, am I going to have to get a whole nother ring setup, particularly for this rifle, because this rifle is often, it's about to become my backup, I think, because I've got something else in store that we'll be showing you guys soon. Looks like you can get away with 50 or 56 millimeter bell if you're looking at the Meoptas. Just depends on what you want. I think they're both equally good. I think they're super high quality optics, and I think there's a lot of value for the price. Just depends on your particular setup, what kind of rings you're running now, if you're willing to go higher, and what kind of elevation you need to get barrel clearance from the bell and also have adequate eye relief in such a way that you can get good cheek weld and get your face on that cheek, so you can really maintain a good rifleman stance when you're shooting. Great scopes, a lot of bells and whistles, a lot of reticle choices. Glass is exceptional. I have no trouble recommending these scopes at all. Thanks. We'll keep them coming. I think I'm going to get the Dichro-Tech reticle, and then when I go to West Texas and look for Audad, I don't have to worry about changing batteries and stuff. So we'll talk to you about that once we start looking at it. So far, I've been really happy with this stuff. It looks like it's really going to do the job. So thanks for tuning in. See you guys later. Bye. So I got it to work. This is the 56, and I can get about one piece of paper between that bell and that barrel. This is great for me. I kind of have a small face, small head, so the gun's empty. So with this setup, I can still get a cheek weld, a really good cheek weld, and get right on that sight picture. There was an unforeseen thing though that you're going to want to be aware of, especially if you like to mount your scope low. These rings are pretty low. I measured them to center off the receiver. It's a steel base and rings, and what was happening was this bolt handle would bump right up against that magnification ring. Might still be on there slightly. So you're going to have to make a decision about if you want to sacrifice your higher scope height off the bore, and get bigger rings, which you could do, and I had thought about doing it, but it's like $150 for those things. Or I decided I was willing, in my case, to just get out my gunsmith files and very slightly take about a 1/64 of an inch off of that bolt. And now it doesn't hit it. And probably when I'm bored, I'll take a little time and maybe take another 1/64 of an inch off, and then it's all going to be perfect. But to get it this right, the tolerances are so tight. It would have been great if they could have made this mag ring slightly smaller. There are a couple workarounds, either taller rings, if you're not willing to do that, but you're willing to just so slightly profile that bolt, it'll give you just enough clearance to get everything good to go. Overall, it looks like it's going to work. We'll go to the range and let you know what we think. Thanks. Bye.